Now think about, see, we have to have a foundation for this. This can't be my feelings. This can't be pastor's feelings. This cannot be what I want you to know or feel like that you should know. This has to be coming from the Word. Now let me read this to you again. From Ephesians 2:11. Just listen to me. I don't even want you to read it. Just listen to me. Therefore remember that formerly you who are Gentiles by birth and called uncircumcised by those who call themselves the circumcision, that done in the body by the hands of men, remember that at that time you were separated from Christ, excluded from citizenship in Israel, and foreigners to the covenants of promise, without hope and without God in the world. Huh? You say they didn't have to then. There was no hope. They had no promise. They had no covenants. They had nothing. That law had nothing at all to do with the Gentiles. None. It wasn't given. They were no people. See, this is coming to a point when you gather this whole thing together on righteousness, and you get through this third hour where we're talking about self-righteousness. If you can tear down that wall of tradition, you will understand why in 2 Peter it says you were not a people. You were no people. Isn't that what we just read? I'll read it for you again. You don't have to go there. It's 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 10 says, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of God. So you were not a people. You were in the world with no hope and no God and no law. Let me ask you another question. Are the Gentiles of the New Testament required to keep the law of Moses? Now this is the New Testament. You know what we're saying? This is after Christ comes. You think Moses came to bring the law to all people? Okay. I'm talking about after Jesus now, the New Testament saying. The New Testament Gentiles, that was the question. Yes? Okay. Okay, but now listen to my question. My question is, are Gentiles of the New Testament required to keep the law of Moses? No. Okay. Everyone is saying no. They still no people. They can't keep it? Who are the Gentiles of the New Testament? The Gentiles of the New Testament. Are the Gentiles of the New Testament required to keep the law of Moses? Why? Well, wait a minute. Wait, I hear conflicting things. I hear something saying we're no longer under the law. When were we ever under the law? Well, we were never under the law. But I have another question for you. I don't think you're hearing my question. Are the Gentiles of the New Testament required to keep the law of Moses? Who am I talking about? I thought you were a Christian.
They're still no people. They're still no people. They're still no people.
Well, wait a minute. Are you a Gentile or are you a Christian? You were formerly a Gentile. Now you're a Christian. My question is, are the Gentiles of the New Testament required to keep the law of Moses? No. How many say no? How many say, well, that was everybody? I think. Yeah, are they required to keep the law of Moses? They said no. Everyone is in agreement. No. All right, that's good. Let me ask you a question. What scriptures require the Christians to keep the law of Moses? What scriptures require the Christians, now talking about the Gentiles now, what scriptures require the Christians to keep the law of Moses? Anyone have any ideas? Any scriptures you can take me to? We might go over that scripture. So we're going to go over some scriptures. But the point is, the question is, what scriptures does, well, let me put it this way. Does anyone know any scriptures that we could read that requires the Christian to keep the law of Moses? No one's given me any scriptures. Right. Matthew 22:40. Let's go there. This is requiring the Christians to keep the law of Moses. Matthew chapter 22, verse 40. It says, on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Are those two commandments that's talking about under the law of Moses? Those are new laws, new commandments. So it's not the law of Moses. That one won't fit. Anyone else have another idea?
I don't think you're going to find it.
Well, wait a minute, church. You guys are telling me that there are no scriptures that require the Christian to keep the Ten Commandments. You know, why are you guys signing those petitions to have the Ten Commandments posted on the walls in schools? All right? Yeah, right. I mean, I've seen Christians up in arms about the Ten Commandments not being put back into the schools. They want them put on the walls in the school. When did the Ten Commandments ever pertain to anyone other than the Israelites? Well, tell me this then. Why are you guys living your lives trying to keep the Ten Commandments? Some aren't. You know, thou shalt not steal, shall not kill, shall not commit adultery, shall not bear false witnesses against thy neighbor. Because the Ten Commandments say it's a sin to lie. Doesn't it? So when you're not doing these things, what commandment are you doing that tells you not to do it? That sounds like a good answer. The law of love. The law of love tells you not to do what? Well, wait a minute now. You didn't answer my question. You gave me the law of love. What does the law of love tell you not to do? Well, this was my question. What law are you following that tells you not to do these things?
He's not doing it, Master. No, yeah. But you said thou shalt not.
Yeah.
We don't follow thou shalt not. I don't know now because it says thou shalt in the new covenant. You know, telling us now I give you a command.
A new commandment give I unto you. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul and all thy mind and all thy strength, and love thy neighbor as thyself. Where does it say shall not?
It doesn't. What about covet thy neighbor's wife?
Well, see, this is why I wanted to get through the. See, the 10 Commandments is so deeply entrenched into us. Yeah, you just that quick, you go right back under the law. It's a difference. And it's a big difference. It's a difference. Satan never wants you to get a hold of the difference in the thou shalt not and the thou shalt.
So there's only two laws.
That's what he says.
There's only two laws.
He says all of the rest of this, these 2 commandments, all the rest of every other commandment hangs on these 2 new commandments. If you do these 2, you won't have to worry about not doing the others. Turn to Romans chapter 2, verse 14. Romans chapter 2, verse 14.